On March 5, 1931, outside the Herald Square Hotel, the city moved at a frantic pace. But up on the 5th floor, staff prepared to breach Suite 552. The occupant had barricaded herself inside for over 2 decades. The rumors that leaked out to the press described a macabre scene. The woman inside was reportedly emaciated, weighing barely 70 pounds, living among towering stacks of rotting garbage, and supposedly hadn't bathed in years. But the detail that dominated national headlines was the staggering fortune reportedly hidden amidst the squalor, roughly $500,000 in cash and assets. The press went wild with the specifics. One highly circulated claim insisted she sewed the entire fortune directly into her nightgown. It sounds exactly like a Hollywood script. To find out what actually happened to Ida Wood, we have to treat these decades-old rumors as a cold case and measure them against the historical record. Decades before she became a hotel recluse, Ida Wood was firmly entrenched in New York's elite. In the late 19th century, she strategically maneuvered her way into high society by marrying wealthy publisher William Wood. Over the course of their marriage, she actively managed their finances. She accumulated vast sums of cash, jewelry, and securities, securing a massive personal fortune long before she ever set foot in the Herald Square Hotel. Following her husband's death, Ida abruptly withdrew from her wealthy social circles. She packed up her assets and relocated entirely to a suite overlooking Herald Square. The hotel was a high-end establishment. Ida used her deep cash reserves to ensure absolute privacy, consistently tipping the staff handsomely in crisp bills so they would leave her alone and ask no questions. She didn't enter this reclusive phase by herself. She brought her sister and her daughter into the suite with her, creating a tiny insular family unit. What began as a widow's calculated desire for privacy slowly devolving into a pathological lockdown. As the years turned into decades, the doors stayed shut, and the outside world began to invent the myths we hear today. To separate the reality from the urban legend, we have to look closely at primary source documents, including court filings, estate records, and contemporary newspaper accounts. This table lays out the 3 most persistent myths regarding Suite 552, the $500,000 hoard, the money hidden in her clothing, and the 24 years of absolute isolation. First, the total value. The claim of a $500,000 fortune is verified. When police and lawyers finally inventoried the room, they found cash, gold certificates, and jewelry matching that estimate, which, accounting for inflation since 1931, holds the purchasing power of roughly $10 million today. Next is the location of those funds. The idea that she sewed hundreds of thousands of dollars into her nightgown is false. Contemporary police reports indicate the assets were stashed in shoeboxes, trunks, and wrapped in newspaper. The nightgown detail was purely a product of tabloid exaggeration. Finally, the absolute isolation. This is heavily disputed. While Ida rarely left the room, she lived with her sister for much of that time and regularly interacted with hotel staff through a cracked door to retrieve fresh linens and basic supplies. The press clearly inflated the most macabre details to sell papers. Yet the verified facts, a woman hoarding the equivalent of $10 million in cash and certificates inside a midtown hotel room for decades, remain a staggering piece of New York history. Back in March 1931, once the door was forced open and her immense wealth was exposed, Ida was moved to a different hotel room and lawyers immediately took control of her assets. She died just a year later. Because she left no clear, updated will, her passing triggered a massive legal battle. Over 1,000 people stepped forward, attempting to claim a piece of the estate. Ida Wood spent half her life aggressively guarding her assets to maintain complete independence. But the moment her door was opened, the court stepped in, and she spent her final days stripped of the autonomy she sacrificed so much to keep. Her life serves as a precise case study in how history is remembered. The exaggerated myths of the 70-pound hermit in a money-lined nightgown traveled fast, but tracing the actual documents reveals a much more complex reality, a story of wealth, control, and the intense psychological toll of trying to lock out the world.